Welcome back to another K-Stang video. Week 7 of college football has ended, and we're now going into week number 8. But I would just like to take give an analysis of a couple of games, probably all of the games that happened last weekend, whether it's Clemson, Alabama, South Carolina, LSU, you name it. Whatever games that happened in week 7, I want to talk about it, just give the viewers a little bit more content on this channel. So to start off, I'm a diehard Clemson fan if you all don't know, and Clemson did play Wake Forest. Now, the polls did drop on Sunday, and Clemson did stay number 10. And honestly, I'm not mad at it, especially because the playoffs have 12 teams in it now. 12 teams. I'll take it. Of course, Clemson was probably one of the highest ranking teams from the 2016 to 2020 era. Obviously, we don't have a generational quarterback anymore. Cade Klubnik is just getting it done for us. This year, he's looked a lot better than past seasons. So, honestly, I'm feeling a little bit good, but I'm still shaky within our offense and within our defense. Obviously, we can throw the ball deep. Westco, TJ Moore, Antonio Williams, even TJ Brown, if I'm not mistaken, they're all great deep threats. Jake Brennan-Sewell, obviously, he can give you intermediate and short routes, but he's really athletic. So I just want to go through the stats within this game just to show what Cade Klubnik and our offense did do and what Wake Forest did not do. Now, they don't have a high-performing QB anymore. Sam Hartman was him for them. Obviously, they didn't win too much, but me personally, I saw Sam Hartman in high school, and I liked how he developed. And honestly, I thought he was one of the better QBs in the ACC, but now he's moved on. He's gone to the NFL. So Clemson did win 49-14. Let's just get into some stats. Cade Klubnik had 31 of 41 completions, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously, Dabo Swinney likes to get a lot of guys in the rotation. Whether it's our backup quarterback, backup running backs had a lot of time in this past game. And Phil Mafah did his thing once again. I think almost every game that he's played up to this far, he's got about 100 yards. Even Antonio Williams had a touchdown within this game. Obviously, he's a wide receiver, so it really doesn't matter as long as he catches it. But, Clemson has to show off his offense because right now we're looking pretty good, but we were really shaky when we played Georgia, only scoring 3 points, if I'm not mistaken. And then our defense just let the floodgates open. So we're not going to go back to that. But Phil Mafah, our top running back, had 19 carries for 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. Keith Adams Jr., a guy or a prospect I really like for Clemson, he had 6 for 36 and a touchdown. And then Cade Klubnik was running some 7 for 30. I also like Jay Haynes as well. He's very fast. He's very shifty. And he's also in one of my classes. Shout out Jay. Jake Brennan-Sewell, probably one of the top wide receivers. I know he's a tight end, but top wide receivers for Clemson. He had 7 receptions for 104 yards and a touchdown. I like Stellato. He had a touchdown. Antonio Williams, he had a touchdown. Well, we hope to see TJ Moore get back. Not TJ Moore. Westco, my bad. Westco. We hope to see Westco get back because within the last couple of games, he was very electric for the Clemson offense, running deep and catching many touchdowns and receptions. So I like what I saw from them. Moving on to Wake Forest. Hank Backmer, 12 for 21, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Obviously, I hope he plays good the rest of his season. Obviously, Clemson has a subpar, mediocre, or probably one of the best defenses in the nation, whichever type of fan you are. And sometimes things just don't go your way. Demond Claiborne, 18 for 53. Tate Carney, 6 for 38. I mean, obviously, their offense wasn't much against the Clemson defense. Not to put anything past them. I'm sure they have a great program over there. I don't know the coach's name, but hey, when it's just not your night or not your day, it's just not your day. Let's move on to some team stats right here. First downs, Wake Forest had 16. Clemson had 37. So basically double what Wake Forest had. Third down efficiency, Wake Forest was 3 for 11. Clemson was 7 for 11. Really, if you saw this game, you saw that Clemson pretty much dominated. If I'm not mistaken, Wake Forest did have a touchdown above Clemson. That was probably the first time Clemson trailed since Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, Clemson pretty much dominated within this game. Clemson pretty much dominates within the ACC altogether. Last year was one of their down years, losing to FSU, losing to Duke. Honestly, with our roster now, I don't think we would lose to those people or those teams. But hey, you never know. I'd put nothing past Clemson based off their production within the last couple of years. I don't want to hype myself or hype them up too much. But it was a pretty good game all around. Clemson's been blowing out their opponents since Georgia. So hopefully we get into the top 4. Hopefully we win the ACC and we get a bye week. I don't think our bye week would be beneficial because I feel like as much as we play, we'll get better and better. So moving on to the next game. I just want to shout out this game right here. Missouri, number 19 right now. Played Massachusetts, if I'm not mistaken, and they won 45-3. South Carolina and Alabama. What a game. Especially Alabama being the number 7 team in the nation. I would just like to say, based off of that, and who did they play last week? Oh, they played Vanderbilt. They lost to Vanderbilt too. I'll have to make a video on that as well. But Lenora Sellers came back, and I'm very fond of Lenora Sellers. Obviously, I'm not a Gamecock fan at all. Clemson, ride or die. But Lenora Sellers did 23 for 31, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Obviously, I think he's a good QB. He could spin the ball. He can create plays. He's a playmaker. Reminds me of Patrick Mahomes, maybe Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. But I think he has a very good career within the SEC. Hopefully they can get him enough weapons like top prospects, maybe from the transfer portal, maybe from high school. But right now they're doing good. I mean, even though they're 3-3, that's still 500 on the season. Some people ain't even that good. And they've been almost, I know they say a win is a win and almost isn't good enough, but they've been competing with the top teams, barely losing to LSU, barely losing to Alabama. They lost to Alabama by 2 points. Get that in your brains. 2 points, folks. 2 points. And it was off of a 2-point conversion. Therefore, Alabama didn't play their best game. I think South Carolina could have definitely tied it up if they made a better play call. Go back and watch the highlight of that 2-point conversion. But they did subpar, at least I think so. Raheem Sanders, another guy that I like on the South Carolina Gamecocks, 16 for 78 and a touchdown. Lenora Sellers, he got his ankle hurt, so I don't expect him to rush too much. He had 16 carries for 19 yards, but I'm sure he'll get better production out of his legs. Mazio Bennett Jr., 3 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. Nick Harbor, 2 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. So all in all, Clemson did what they could against Alabama, but Alabama's been known to have a good defense, and they showed it today. Their offense has better production. Jalen Milroe is their quarterback. I like Jalen Milroe. I would honestly pick him over a couple, maybe even, he's probably my top 3 quarterbacks to come into this draft class. Jalen Milroe had 16 for 23 attempts, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I know Nick Saban would have lost his mind. If he saw Jalen Milroe throw 2 interceptions. Jalen Milroe is electric. Hopefully he gets a bounce back game. But these last 2 games that they did play, ooh. It's like a bear trying to find the honey, but they can't get the bees. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Jamarion Miller, 12 for 42. Jalen Milroe, 18 for 36. And Justice Haynes, 8 for 26. Obviously, they didn't get many rushing yards from their running backs. And like I always say, I preach this. You have to be 2-dimensional. You have to have a running game, and you have to have a passing game. Now, don't hate me for this. Jeremy Bernard, 4 for 89 and a touchdown. He did pretty good. Cole Adams, 2 for 57. Ryan Williams, 17 years old. I don't know if he's 17. I don't know when his birthday is. But he had 4 receptions for 32 yards. Like I said, Alabama left a lot on the plate. They got a bunch of leftovers. Hopefully, they the players have better production coming out of these games. I mean, they're barely scraping away against these unranked teams. And honestly, I think they should have dropped a couple of spots. Even losing to Vanderbilt, they should have dropped way more than 6 spots, honestly. And then this South Carolina win, it doesn't show that they're the top teams in the nation. But all of that doesn't matter if they win the SEC. I will say that. So, team stats. First downs for Alabama, 20 to South Carolina's 23. Third down efficiency, 5 for 11 for Alabama, 7 for 15 for South Carolina. Time of possession, 26 minutes for Alabama, 28 minutes for Alabama, 31 for South Carolina. So all in all, they were pretty matched up in play. I like what I saw from both teams. Like I said, each team could do a little bit better. But moving on to the next game, just to shout out these scores: UAB lost to Army. Army beat them 44-10. Army is now ranked 23. If I'm not mistaken, either the Navy or the Air Force is also ranked, which is crazy. Obviously, I don't think they play as tough competition as the SEC or ACC or Big 10 or Big 12 or anything like that. But they're still doing their thing. Props to them for being ranked. And it's especially a high honor for them to be undefeated at this moment in the season. Stanford played Notre Dame. Notre Dame is number 12. Notre Dame beat them 49-7. We expected this. Clemson also dominated them. Stanford isn't known to be a good team, but they've been known to produce high-quality players like Christian McCaffrey, Richard Sherman, you name it. Another game, the Red River Rivalry. Texas, number 1 team in the nation. This is when Quinn Ewers came back, probably one of the top prospects in this draft class. Texas defeated Oklahoma by a substantial margin, 34-3, in a mesmerizing fashion. Quinn Ewers had 20 for 29, 199 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. This goes to the topic of me saying that I would take a lot of quarterbacks, even Shedeur Sanders, over Quinn Ewers. Don't get me wrong, the guy is good. He's leading his team to an undefeated season. And he led the team last year as well. He came back another year to see if he could get a championship, to see if he could get a Heisman. And he's doing all right. Honestly, at this point in time, I think Arch Manning may be a little bit better, but he still needs to develop. So hopefully Quinn Ewers picks up his play. This is his first game back after an injury, so I'm sure he'll just pick up where he left off, honestly. Quintravion Wesner, 13 for 118 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Jaden Blue, 10 for 30. So they had a pretty good rushing attack from consistent people like Quintravion Wisner, or Wisner, I'm sorry. Gunnar Helm, 5 for 91 and a touchdown. Ryan Wingo, 2 for 49. If I'm not mistaken, Isaiah Bond did get hurt in this game. If I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong. But I think he did get hurt. Prayers go up to him. Obviously, he transferred from Alabama, and he's electric. I like what I see from him. He's a good wide receiver. Now on Oklahoma, Michael Hawkins Jr., 19 for 30, 148 yards. That Texas defense with Steve Sarkisian, my bad. I'm getting my S's mixed up. Steve Sarkisian. Yeah, that defense is outrageous. Offense was electric. I mean, there's not much more you can do. Obviously, Brent Venables, head coach for the Oklahoma Sooners, is a defensive-minded coach, if you did not know that. Came from Clemson as a defensive coordinator. And, his defense just didn't want to set up shop at this game. The tires were rusty. They couldn't stop him when they needed to. 34 points. You have to hang your head low and walk back. Man, Javante Barnes, 14 for 38. Michael Hawkins Jr., 20 for 27. So, like I said, they don't have a good running game right now, or within this game at least. And when you don't have a good running game, you become one-dimensional. Zion Kearney, 4 for 45. Beer Sharp, 3 for 21. They didn't have a passing game either. So this just goes to show that the Texas defense did play very well against the Oklahoma Sooners offense. And when you can't score any points, you can't win the ball game. Let's move on to some team stats. First downs, 18 for Oklahoma, 17 for Texas. Third down efficiency, 4 for 15 for Oklahoma, 5 for 13 for Texas. And then time of possession was relatively similar, 32 for Oklahoma, 27 for Texas. Now, obviously, 5 minutes is a big gap. But when you're losing to this magnitude and you still have a longer time of possession, outrageous. That means Texas was firing on all cylinders. That means they did what they had to do and they got up out of there. Cal and Pittsburgh was a great game, I will say that. And honestly, I think Cal did fumble the bag. I don't know why they had that drive. The last plays of the game. The field goal kicker was absolutely horrendous. Hopefully he could get his technique back right at least. But Pittsburgh, the number 20 team in the nation, did win this game, 17-15. Barely scraping away. Barely scraping away. I'm not going to go into the stats of this game because I really don't want to. Or I really don't think I should. 17-15. I don't expect Pittsburgh to be a top contender in the playoffs, honestly. I think they're still undefeated, and props to them for that. I just don't see Pittsburgh. Obviously, they beat Clemson a while ago, but you can't really write them off. But I'm just saying, I don't think they're a playoff contender. I like California going into this game. I thought they played really good last week, but Pittsburgh did come up with the win, which they should have. So they won 17-15. Illinois played Purdue, and this was a good game as well. Illinois is number 22 team in the nation, and they beat Purdue by 1 point. It was a high-scoring game, 50-49. The Illinois did win. So then we have Penn State versus USC. This was another game that I would like to get into. Miller Moss for USC is electric. I would say that. I like him, especially I liked what I've seen from him within all of the games that he's played to this point. 20 for 34, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. I'd take that from my starting quarterback. Obviously, he could get a lot more completions, but that'd be empty calorie, honestly. They still lost the game either way. Jaquavius Marks, 20 for 111, and Quentin Joyner, 3 for 82, and a touchdown. So they had great running back production. I like what I see from there. I like seeing people tote the rock, honestly. Mekhi Lemon, 6 for 73, and he was their top wide receiver within this game. I think the offense just needed to score or just needed to play a little bit better, and they probably would have won this game. They had Penn State dead to rights. I will say that. Dead to rights. Drew Aller, 30 for 43, 391 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. If he didn't have the 3 interceptions, he would have played a good game. But 3 interceptions and USC still losing the ball game is atrocious. It is absolutely atrocious. Lincoln Riley should be pooping his pants right now. I could never be a coach because I'd be so stressed about this game. 3 interceptions and we still lose the ball game. It got forced into overtime, which is always good because it gives both teams the chance to win the ball game. Put everything on the line. Leave everything out on the field. But you know what USC did? They crawled. They couldn't stand on their feet. And it's a terrible sight to see, man. I mean, Penn State is another team that's still undefeated. 6-0. Got 6 more games to go, plus the playoffs. They're the number 3 team in the nation so far. I think they'll get knocked off because I think they got to play Ohio State at one point. They should play Ohio State if I'm not mistaken. Somebody go down in the comments, tell me if I'm wrong or right, but I think they do play Ohio State, and I do think Ohio State would beat them, even though they just lost to Oregon. But we'll get into that. Let's see some team stats for these, shall we? First down, 16 for USC, 28 for Penn State. Third down efficiency was abysmal for both teams. Fourth down efficiency was great for Penn State because they completed both of their attempts. Time of possession, 5-minute difference. Penn State had 32 minutes, and then USC had 27 minutes. So, all in all, this is a great game. I like watching college football on Saturdays. It's always a joy to watch. You never know what's going to happen. And I like USC. I like Miller Moss. I think he'd be very good coming up in his career. He still has to develop. Lincoln Riley is known to produce some good quarterbacks. If I'm not mistaken, I think he produced Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams. He was there when Jalen Hurts was there too, was he not? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if I'm right about that. So the next teams, BYU played Arizona. I think Arizona has a decent offense, at least if they're playing like subpar teams. BYU torched them 41-19. I will say that. 41-19 is crazy, but obviously you expect that from the number 13 team in the nation, BYU, and 41-19 suits itself. This is no surprise to anybody, but Georgia beat Mississippi. Georgia beat Mississippi State 41-31, and the Georgia fans always talk about how, we don't let anybody get over 20 points. Mississippi put up 31 on y'all. Obviously, y'all say the win is a win. I say a win is a win. A win is a win until it puts you in a bad predicament. I will say that. So therefore, you kind of contradict yourself. You kind of be hypocritical. I say it all the time too, but they won 41-31. I will say, I think Georgia may have a couple more losses. They play Texas tomorrow, and I'm hoping Texas wins. That way, I can just text my friends and be like, hey, another loss on your belt, 2-loss team. crazy work because some of the teams in the top 12 don't even have 2 losses. Most of them has either none or 1. So where would you put Georgia if they have 2 losses? Obviously, they lost to Alabama. They might lose to Texas. I think they will lose to Texas. So, but that's a story for another video. Coming down to the last couple of games, Tennessee barely beat Florida by 6 points. They're number 11 team in the nation. Obviously, Tennessee has been up and down all year. They play these really subpar teams, and they played really good. But then they play like Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken, if that's what their loss was to. And they lose. Nico didn't want to throw the ball, ran out of bounds, last play of the game. So they got some character development to go to, or not character development, but football development to go through. I'm sure Tennessee is going to be right back where they need to be. Playing Florida Florida isn't really any good at this point in time. So we'll see how they progress through the course of the season because, there's still a lot of football left. And I like that. Another highlight of week number 7, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, it's week number 7. Ole Miss played LSU. And boy, what a game. What a game. Jackson Dart had 24 for 42, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I think Jackson Dart is probably one of the top quarterbacks in the nation to this point. That's my opinion. I like what I see from the guy, but it goes to prove when Ole Miss actually plays a decent team, they ain't putting up 40 to 50 points on their head top. Ulysses Bentley the 4th, if I'm not mistaken, that's what that is. 11 carries, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. Henry Parnish Jr., 14 for 42. So they had a subpar running game. Caden Lee, 9 for 132. Trey Harris, 7 for 102. This game also went into overtime. They have great production from 2 wide receivers, which is what I like to see. Ole Miss is a high-passing offense. They're very electric. But LSU, they really don't have that much of a defense. And I can go toe-to-toe with anybody that wants to say that LSU has one of the best defenses in the nation. Absolutely not. Trash. And I also want to say Brad Kelly is not my favorite head coach in college football right now. I feel like he's a whiner. He's a complainer. I'm nothing against the guy. But every time I just see him whining and complaining. Maybe that's just the way the media portrays him. I'm sure he's probably not like that. I would love to sit down and talk with him one day in time. Just to pick his football brain, I'm obviously coaching. He coached at Notre Dame his previous stint. So I'm sure he's a good guy. Garrett Nussmeier, another quarterback that I liked within college football right now. 22 for 51. Trash. 337 yards, which is good. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Trash. 2 interceptions. Can't do it. Obviously, you got the win, but we don't like to see giving the ball over. We don't like to see takeaways. We don't like to see that. Caden Durham, I like what I've seen from him in that South Carolina game. He's 12 for 37. You need better production from the running backs, like I said. But Kyron Lacy, another top wide receiver. Obviously, I think he has a little bit character development issues, especially with his celebrations, brandishing, pew-pews, if I may say. I don't think that's right. Obviously, especially when somebody's down or whenever you score a touchdown, I don't think that's right. You're not a thug. Not a thug. I don't care. If you came from that background, man, just leave it alone, man. Put it to the side. You're about to go to the NFL. I say that from the bottom of my heart, man. Like to see brothers win. Kyron Lacy, 5 receptions for 111 yards, 1 touchdown. Aaron Anderson, 3 for 81 and a touchdown. I like what I see from LSU. That could be a little bit better. Both of these teams are still ranked 18 for Ole Miss, 8 for LSU. I think LSU could lose to possibly anybody in the top 12 at this point in time. But like I said, here Nussmeier is a dog. Durham, their running back is a dog. Their defense can give them stops when they need to, somewhat. So let's see what LSU has in store for college football within the remaining games. Iowa State beat West Virginia 28 to 16. I'm sorry. We expect that. Kansas State beat Colorado. I will say that was an amazing game. Colorado put up a valiant effort. I will say that. But Kansas State just barely scraped away with a win. 3 points. If I'm not mistaken, I think Shedeur Sanders on 4th down threw a lob to a wide receiver on the sideline. I thought it was pass interference if it was catchable. Obviously, it wasn't. It wasn't ruled that way by the referees. Therefore, the referees did not give them that call. Avery Johnson, a quarterback that I like as well. He can throw the ball. He for sure can run the ball. Definitely a dual threat. 15 for 23, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He had a great game. I'm not saying Colorado's defense is the best in the nation, but he did have a pretty good game. DJ Giddens, 25 carries for 182 yards. I may be saying that wrong. 182 yards is crazy work. That means your defensive line isn't getting any pressure. That means your linebackers aren't filling any gaps. That means your cornerbacks aren't containing. Now, Deion Sanders is a defensive guy, I'm sure. He's definitely an offensive guy as well. But, man, this was terrible. There ain't no way. And then Travis Hunter was also hurt. Jimmy Horn was also hurt for Shedeur Sanders. So there was a lot to be left on the table. I'm sure they would have made a better impact on this game. But let's read out some of their stats. Shedeur Sanders, 34 for 40. So he's played a good game completion-wise. 388 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Besides that lob that he threw at the end of the game to seal it, he had a good game. Don't argue with me. I like him probably the best quarterback in front of Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, you name it. I think he's probably one of the best to come out or come into this draft. Dalen Hayden. Actually, let me not even say anything. This is just a stat to say. Shedeur Sanders had 9 carries for negative 50 yards. And he said in an interview, he wasn't gifted with speed. He wasn't gifted with agility. He wasn't gifted with acceleration. And man, was he right. Amarion Miller, another wide receiver that I like in college football. 8 receptions for 145 yards. That'll get the job done. But you need somebody to come along with you, because once you start throwing to one person, you get doubled. So you need other guys to rely on. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for Week 7 college football matchups. I know the guys wasn't here with me to do it with me, but they said they really didn't watch too many games of college football within Week 7. Hopefully they watch Week 8 so we can get together, discuss, talk as a group to get different opinions other than my own. But for now, leave what you want to in the comments. Tell me what favorite football team you have or you'd like. Tell me what you think about my takes. Give me some ideas. And as always, stay tuned in.